sacrifice just as God has said. Didn't know how, didn't know when, but just knowing that God would provide. His mind was just set on doing what God said to. And right before he could take his son's life, God showed up. That's what it means when we say that God is a provider. It doesn't mean that God won't allow you to have to deal with the circumstances. It doesn't mean that God won't allow you to get to the point where you may have to face some difficult decisions. But what it does mean is that God will show up just in time. And so when God showed up and told Abraham that there was a ram in the thickets, Abraham called that place Jehovah Jireh. It is in this mountain that the Lord's ability to see beforehand is seen. It is in this mountain that God provided what I need so I could keep my boy Isaac. And that's what we're talking about tonight. By faith, Abraham offered. He knew God's ability to do anything but fail. So he trusted God enough to give what God wanted from him. When we understand the God that we serve, we know that he's able to supply. He's able to furnish what's needed or what is desired. That's why Paul could tell the Philippians in chapter 4 and verse number 19 that my God shall supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. That's how Jesus was able to tell his disciples to make the men sit down on the ground and just take 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and feed 5,000 men, not including women and children, because God is a provider. That's how Elijah was able to tell the woman, I know you ain't got but a little bit of oil and just a handful of meal, but just take what you got and make me my cake first. If you always put God first, God will provide all the time. After the woman had given him his first, the Bible says that our oil never ran out and our barrel stayed full of meal, because God is a provider. That's how the children of Israel were able to walk around in the wilderness for 40 years and not get hungry, because God provided a manna in the morning. He provided them quail in the evening. And whenever they got thirsty, if the water was too bitter in the river, all they had to do was take a tree to sweeten up the water so that his children can drink, because God is a provider. That's how the woman with the issue of blood was able to get the healing that she needed after she had spent all of her money with the doctors and they couldn't help her. This woman realized that if anybody can help me, certainly it's Jesus that can help me. And see, sometimes we need to have the same type of tenacity that woman had. She understood that after she had spent all of her money with doctors and her condition wasn't any better, if anybody can help me, certainly it is Jesus. And so the Bible says that she pressed her way through the crowd. This woman was determined to get what was hers. She wasn't concerned about being ceremonially unclean, but she knew that the God she had heard about could supply everything that she needed. And so she got through the crowd just close enough to get to the hem which was on his garment. This was her last chance to get it. If she didn't get it now, she would go without it. And so she did what was necessary so that she could put herself in position so that God could supply her needs. When you put yourself in position for God to supply your needs, he'll show up every time. If you put yourself in position, you will discover that God is your help in the time of need. If you put yourself in position, you will discover he's a rock in a weary land and a shelter in the time of storm. If you put yourself in position, you'll find out that he's water when you're thirsty, that he's bread when you're hungry. If you put yourself in position, you will discover that he is a doctor that will never lose a patient. If you put yourself in position, you'll know that he is a lawyer in a courtroom when you can't can't afford one. If you put yourself in position, you'll know that he's your life giver. He's your originator, and that he is your sustainer. When you understand that God will supply all of my needs, you don't worry about what's going to happen on tomorrow, because you understand that if God takes care of me today, that's all I need. God is my supplier, and as long as God is my supplier, I'm going to be all right. It doesn't matter about the economic status of America. If God is my supplier, I'm going to be all right. It doesn't matter if the financial crisis gets worse and worse as the years go by. If God is my Jehovah Jireh, he is my provider. See, that's a wonderful thing about understanding what Abraham understood. When Abraham said Jehovah Jireh, he was saying, I know where all my blessings come from, and I can just call on Jehovah Jireh, and I know that he will provide. When I say Jehovah Jireh, I know that my devil is defeated. When I call on Jehovah Jireh, I know that the dead can be raised to life again. When I call on Jehovah Jireh, I know that the captives can be set free. When I call on Jehovah Jireh, I know that my sins can be forgiven. When I call on Jehovah Jireh, I know that my broken heart will be mended. When I call on Jehovah Jireh, I know my hope will be restored. My mercy will be administered. My grace will be given, and my love will be lifted up. I'm not worried about anything tonight, because I serve Jehovah Jireh, and as long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And as long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, all things will work together for good for them that love the Lord. As long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, weeping may endure for the night, but joy will come in the morning. As long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, I may be young, but one day I'm going to get a little bit older. I don't have to ever worry about the righteous being forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. As long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, I know the Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. As long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, I can say greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. As long as I serve Jehovah Jireh, I can say if God is for me, he's more than the world against me. Be not dismayed this evening, and don't ever be tired, because God will take care of you. It's beneath his wings that his love will abide. My God, Abraham's God, Sarah's God, Jehovah Jireh is my provider. By faith, Abraham offered. Because he knew that Jehovah Jireh was his provider. Do you know that God will provide tonight? Then what are you worried about? All right. You ain't got nothing to worry about. When you know that God will step in, he'll help you. He'll give you everything you need to get over the hump. No doubt. Through the valley. Across the river. Across the bridge. Down the highway. Whatsoever you traveling, come on with it. Jehovah Jireh will be our provider. It's a wonderful thing about giving God what he wants. See, Abraham had to give up in order to get that understanding about God. God said, don't do the lad no harm. I know you trust me. How did God know that Abraham trusted? Because he was getting ready to put that knife in him. He wasn't holding back. He didn't raise it up and say, all right, Lord, I got my hand raised. Just any time now. I'm going to wait on you. I'm going to keep it up here for a minute and see if you don't shoot. Abraham was getting ready to put it in. The Bible informs us of why in Hebrews chapter 11. He says, accounting. Abraham had already figured it out in his mind. You know, that's what accountants do, right? They figure stuff out. That's it. And so Abraham had already figured out in his head that if God gave him to me when I couldn't have it, God can also raise him from the dead. Y'all see that?